This video is still talking about parallel lines and transversals, but instead of us talking about when the transversal crosses both of these lines and we have the angle pair relationships, what if the question asks you to give the relationship between, let's say, angle A and angle B? That is still lines that are crossing. However, with all of the relationships that we talked about with parallel lines and transversals, the alternate interior, corresponding, alternate exterior, same side, interior and exterior, you had to have two angles that were on different parallel lines. So what if the two angles you're asked about are on the same parallel line? Does it have a relationship? Does it have a numerical relationship? Yes, they do. Do they have one of these relationships from these notes? No. But they still do have a relationship. So to explain those relationships, I'm going to write some notes down here. As if, a little note. The note's going to say, if the angles are touching just one of the parallel lines. If the angles are touching just one of the parallel lines, if angles are touching just one of the parallel lines, what do? We can't call them corresponding or alternate interior or same side interior. We do have to figure out the relationship, but they're not going to be one of those five that we had already talked about. They still have numerical relationships. The numerical ones could actually still be the same, but again, we have to just figure out what the words are, what the actual relationship is. So if we look at these pictures right here, if we have angles that are touching each other right beside each other, so like A and B, these two angles are touching the same parallel line of M, but they are still being split into two, so we have A and B. These are called linear pairs because they are forming, we have two angles that are forming a line. So we have linear pair. Linear pair. These are angles A and B, B and C, C and D, and also D and A. You have the same ones at E and F, F and G, G and H and E. Basically, you have 8 pairs of linear pairs. So I'm going to write out angle A and angle B and angle C and angle D, and then angle D and angle A. And you follow the same ones for the second set as well. So you actually have and more. You'll always have more of those as well. They just go, basically they go around in a circle. A and B, B and C, C and D, D and A. We have E and F, F and G, G and H and E. Those are all linear pairs. Now they still have a numerical relationship. The numerical relationship for those is that they are still supplementary. The numerical relationship is they are supplementary. These are supplementary. Still a numerical relationship. You're always going to have, anytime we have these types of angles, they're going to either be congruent or supplementary every time. So if you have a linear pair, those are already always supplementary. The other type of angles that you can have, again, if they're still just touching one of the parallel lines, these are the adjacent ones, those are A and B. But what if you have A and C? What type of relationship do those have? Well, A and C are formed when you have two lines intersecting, and it almost looks like it's forming the letter X. So A and C are vertical angles. Again, these two happen linear pair, and vertical angles. Vertical angles happen when you're only dealing with one of the parallel lines, not both of them. So angle A and C are vertical angles. Angle B and D are vertical angles. But then if we come down here, we also have E and G. And then we also have angle F and H. Those are all vertical angles. Now, if you remember back from geometry vocabulary, vertical angles are going to be congruent. So we still have the same two types of numerical relationships. We have supplementary and congruent. Now again, these five up here, these five are when the angles are touching the different parallel lines. So one angle has to touch M and one angle has to touch N. These two are for when both angles are touching the same parallel line. So both angles are touching line M, or both angles are touching line N. They're not separated from each other. But they still have the same numerical relationships as the other five. They have either supplementary or congruent. So those are still always the same types of numerical relationships.